Welcome to the new session of Software World with Can Dost. And this week, we will talk about software development in startups. And my guest is Fatih Acet. Fatih is the co-founder and CTO of Superpeer, which is this platform that we are using, and co-founder of Codilan. And he is one of the first 3 front-end engineers of GitLab. And also, he is a Google developer expert on web technologies. So welcome, Fatih. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. It's really a privilege to, be in here. Also, it's my own platform. This is my second stream. The first one that I was hosting. This is my first guest stream, and thank you.
I'm glad. I'm really glad. I'm really happy that you are here with me today. And yeah, we will talk about the generally the software development in startups and their challenges, and also how to overcome challenges and view of Fatih on that one. And let's start with defining the Superpeer's software development process. How is your current software development process going?
When I founded Superpeer, with my ex-CEO. And then at that time, it's called coding. And we were basically, doing the products like, let's put a button here, let's do this here, let's do that in that way. And then I know Devrim because we were working like that. And the first thing that I told Devrim we will not do this in here. We will basically need to have a product person in our team. And then we found our head of product. Okay, so I opened the stream here, but it's actually distracting me. So she'll do this. Okay, sorry. So Maria joined our team as a VP of product, and then head of product. And then the first thing we did was creating all the structure. Right. So how we will use labels, how we write PRDs, how we create issues. Everything should start with an issue, and then everything which will go to development must have a design and PRD. So that was the first thing we discussed and set up in the very beginning of Superpeer. And I'm proud to say that the first issue in Superpeer's GitLab also has labels in it. So from the very first day we started in that philosophy, like everything starts with design, everything starts with issue. Design has to be there, and like there is a counter down right below, which says for that, even that counter we have written like a half-page PRD. When it should start?
What's PRD actually?
PRD means product requirements document. Product requirements document. Even for that PRD, there was timer. There was a half-page long PRD because it says when it should start, when it should do, when it is. Let's say you schedule a time 30 minutes. Should it stop? Should it continue going? All these actually questions. It's not just a simple because it really doesn't work. Doesn't start counting if Can Dost is not here because you are the host here. So. All these things basically we defined that structure, we defined that flow, and then we divided everything into issues and into labels. We have like I guess 10-12 workflow labels. The first one is workflow PRD, and then workflow PRD review, and then it goes to design phase. We have design ready, design review, design completed, and then it goes to engineering. It says engineering. There's also a label. It's like engineering ready, and then engineering in progress, in review, in QA passed, and deployed to production. So we have like a flow, and it's really great to see that moving the issues around the board across the release. That's fantastic. So we actually come up with that at the very early stage in the Superpeer. I'm really happy to do that. Yeah.
So this is like a quite extensive and maybe complex process, I would say. But how do you, as a startup, so you need to act fast and you need to produce the high quality software. And I'm curious that how do you keep up the pace in this environment, like having all the steps from PRD to all production deployments? How do you keep up the the pace actually?
That's actually a really good question. Like, startups should move fast. And actually, I was working at GitLab and as you mentioned, very early employees of the GitLab. And then even that time, GitLab was a startup, but they found the product market fit and they were really growing aggressively. Even that environment, there was a saying, there was a motto of GitLab saying that move fast, break things. So I am currently not doing that. I appreciated that philosophy, that development practices, but I'm kind of not doing that in here because I actually have a very special advantage, I will say, as a CTO, is that I am the one who wrote everything in the beginning, in the first place. So if you change something, I know what will break. If you do this one-liner change, I know what it could affect because it's my software, right? Although it's changing recently, there is a lot of stuff that I don't know. Actually, I know, of course, I still review code, but I don't know the internals of that. So it's actually, as far as I concerned, like that gap increases, which means we are doing good in the engineering team. Like that gap should increase. So as far as I'm concerned. So, but we define these processes, these issues, all the things we need to do. When we create these, we actually say that, okay, we will work on this. We will write PRD for that. We actually come up with that philosophy, and I guess it's just a flow. It was really hard to establish that structure, but we just have that flow right now, and it flows basically. so it's going good. I don't think that it is basically the reason that why things are really fast in Superpeer, especially in development phases, and I still feel like product and design are coming behind of Superpeer because we don't have that much people actually on the team, and yeah, actually this validates your question. So product and design phases are basically falling behind of the engineering pace because we have 20 engineers right now, only 4 designers, no, only 3 designers and 2 product people. So we need to add more folks to that to be able to keep up the pace for engineering team.
So the engineering is bigger than the product part, and so I'm thinking this might create problems regarding coming up with a concept because first, like in many startups as well, you're having maybe a lack of talent in the team, and then how do you come up with a concept for both products and then later on the technical concept? And also we have a question on the chat saying that about the PRD going back to engineering after from product approved and etc. This back and forth, like if you can define a bit like coming up with a concept and all the flows with back and forth, that would be great actually.
Mm-hmm. So I would love you to rephrase the first question, but I will actually pick up will answer the second question on the chat. So that is actually really great question because the biggest frustration or biggest issue, I don't say frustration. So the biggest issue here in Superpeer that I see, the PRDs are actually correct, but the designers actually designing that in a complete specs, right? For example, let's say I will create a table, subscriptions table, right? As the MVP, I don't have to put a search bar in there, but they actually add that search bar or search functionality and filtering functionality there, right? Because that will be the next thing we will deploy we will do in the next release. So they designed the big picture, they designed the complete structure of the design. But my engineers are always asking me, should I do this in that release? No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't touch that part, and you should do this part, but not this part. So we actually, actually coming to a phase like someone we recently hired. His responsibility will be making sure that PRDs are reflecting by designs, and if there's a gap, he will fix it. And right now there was no position like that, but we hired someone, actually started yesterday. I'm really happy. Hi, Arda. So we will fill that gap, but that's actually a gap in there. And the PRDs back and forth, basically, I read PRDs, and my engineering lead reads PRDs, checks design. So we know that we check them before actually going to, we approve them before actually going to engineering. That actually avoids the back and forth. But of course, there's back and forth are happening. And then at that time, we say, okay, we will do this. And like if it requires to design change, go to designers. If they require PRD change, they go to there, or we basically go back to there. So it's basically just communication, I would say, yeah.
Okay. So on the engineering part, I'm more curious about your current tech stack as well. So could you give us a bit hint about what's your tech stack, the current one at Superpeer?
Sure. 1.5 years ago, when I started Superpeer, I actually was about to spin up a DigitalOcean machine and then install Nginx and Express. And I was like, you know what? Don't want to do it right now, because just want to, write some data to a DB. And then actually, I was really pumped up to create something at the very beginning. And then at that time, I was exploring what's my alternatives, because the last time we used Firebase. And the last time I checked Firebase, it was like 8 years ago, 10 years ago maybe. And then Firebase was only having real-time database, which is basically a JSON storage. There was nothing behind, nothing other than the real-time database.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I checked Firebase. I was like, okay, so this is actually a really great platform. You have cloud functions, you have Firestore, which you can actually query, write indexes, queries, and things like that. So I was like, okay, I will give this a chance, and I started playing with that, and really love the flexibility of the and actually, you deploy cloud functions, and then you write DB, and then read from the Firestore, deploy cloud functions. You have scheduler, schedule jobs, which is cron jobs, because we email you, hey, the stream is about to start, kind of email. So we do this, and then Superpeer started as a fully serverless environment, and it is still fully 100% serverless. And tech stack is based on Google Cloud Platform, based on Firebase, Firestore. Although we have MongoDB, but it's just for analytics purposes. And then we started with cloud functions, deploying cloud functions, but there was cloud functions deployments are basically done by one. So if you have 50 cloud functions, right, they basically deploy 1, 2, 3, 4, 90, 49, 50. And this takes like 10-15 minutes, right? The first cloud function is deployed, and the last cloud function deploys like 15 minutes apart. And that cloud function, right, is actually running the new code, but your application front end will be updated after the 50th cloud function, right? There was a race condition. There was actually a really stupid case in there. And the thing is, later I learned that realized that cloud functions are not meant to be for that environment, because cloud functions are basically really great for things you do on the behind of the scenes, which is like, for example, when you upload a video or upload a picture, resize it, right? Transform the video, or email a user. That's really fantastic for that. And then we basically moved everything into Cloud Run.
Okay.
So our infrastructure right now uses Cloud Run, and we are about to deploy multi-region Cloud Run instances. And we run 5 instances on production, which is always on. And the really biggest issue with cloud functions was cold start. Superpeer was working really 100% available, no downtime, no nothing. But when you want to join the stream, it was like taking 10 seconds. It's because of the cold starts. So moving to cloud, because just before we moved to Cloud Run, they said that, okay, we set the minimum instances, so there is no cold start. I was like, perfect timing. So
Great.
Yeah, so that was a really great way of that. And then after moving to Cloud Run, I still feeling like this is the proper serverless approach. So, and because Cloud Functions were like basically microservices, you deploy them one by one. Right now, you deploy a container. Everything shipped inside. Our deployments are basically like 7 minutes, down to 7 minutes. And then we use pretty much everything. We use PubSub, Cloud PubSub, Cloud Build, Cloud Scheduler, Cloud Container Registry, like pretty much everything in Google Cloud Platform. Other than that, this video call, we use third-party providers. Superpeer is 100% serverless, as I mentioned, but uses like, I guess, close to 30 third-party services.
30?
Yeah, 30.
Interesting. I use
25 to 30, I will say, yeah.
I use Firebase in mobile projects mostly, and I was really happy with in general. I also use like the Firestore, Cloud Functions, and real-time database in the beginning, and it was really good in my opinion. And I'm really advocating Firebase as much as I can because it provides a great platform. But I was using mostly like deploying 4 or 5 functions in at the same time, so it was not really a gap for me. Like as you mentioned, it's like if you have a 50 or maybe 80 cloud functions, then it is a real problem. But it's good to hear that you were able to move from one platform to another. And I'm curious about like how do you approach deciding like which tech stack to choose? So in this case, how did you make a decision to use the Cloud Run? And because there are other serverless platforms from AWS, for example, and some other ones. So what was your approach?
So people often ask me, why did you choose Google Cloud Platform instead of AWS? And my first reaction was, I know how shitty is the admin consoles or admin panels of the AWS, and that was literally the first reason for me to choose Google Cloud Platform. And I know Firebase, so that was also a reason to choose GCP. And jokes aside, at that time that was really like 1.5 years ago, was only me. And it was really easy to choose stacks. But also my friends or we discussed that if we add PostgreSQL, so we use Firestore right now. It's NoSQL, and we use Mongo because they play along really nice. And then, but moving to PostgreSQL is a dramatic change. And I don't know, maybe. Really, I would love to come to that point, to thinking that, hey, we should really switch to PostgreSQL. Let's come to that point and let's solve that problem. That's my approach. Go ahead. You were about to say something.
I'm just thinking. Yes, that's true. Like I often also see that people just choosing one platform over another without a reason, and not having a problem to solve is generally the major problem, actually, I would say.
Yeah.
And focusing on the problems makes totally sense, because people most of the time, in my opinion, focus on the solutions and forget the problem and problems behind. And yeah, for me, it totally makes sense that waiting to become a problem.
Yeah. For example, I know that we acknowledge that when we deployed Superpeer into production a couple months later, I heard from my friends and people, they say, hey, Superpeer is a bit slow. Yes, it was because of the cloud functions. But even we were on the number, the top product of the week on product hunt, people were basically, using that Superpeer. They were requesting invites, and I can assure you, Jandos, every single request, there was something, there was a server, there was something, accepts that request and process that request. I literally was like, I still don't have PagerDuty. I still don't have regular. If there's something wrong in Superpeer, especially, for example, a server down or something down, which is mostly not my problem. Like,
Interesting point.
it is not my problem. Recently, there was an outage on Google's Cloud Run service, or some of the endpoints were getting 500. I was like, what? We didn't change it. We didn't deploy the last couple of days. How could it happen? And then we realized that there is something wrong. And then we deployed another Cloud Run instance into production. It's solved. I'm like, okay, so I'm really happy. And from the problem aspect of solving this thing, or we will figure out it when the problems arise, right? It was also same for our migration to Cloud Run. We were come to that point deploying close to 80 cloud functions, 78 or something like that. And then it took like 30 minutes and was really not feeling good. And also cold starts and things like that. I was actually thinking that, hey, I should be looking for something else. I have to make this thing faster. And then Cloud Run, and then we added Cloud Run. And then when we hit the limitation, I'm not sure if we will hit or ever we will hit into limitation of Firestore. I'm like, okay, so what's next?
It's totally makes sense. Like, as I said before, it's without having the problem, there's no reason for any change. But one thing is like interesting for me is that you don't have alerting or PagerDuty or like something like this. And is it? I'm a bit unfamiliar with the server's structure and how does it work. I use it, but I didn't set up any alerting as well, just because I didn't need it in mobile at that time. And I'm just out of curiosity. So just because you don't have an alerting is the reason that just because of the serverless, or you do something else?
Well, we do alerting. Well, my point was like, if I, of course, we have an alerting system right now, which is, and we do really extensive logging, really extensive pinging, and uptime checks and things like that. So we have all these. But my point was like, I am not bringing my phone to my bedroom. It's not because of they are listening us or things like that. Because I'm working remotely for the last 8 years, I really don't need to wake up at 7 p.m. or 7 a.m. or 8 a.m.
Yeah.
I woke up right now I'm because of my 3.5 years old. So I always woke at somewhere around 8 a.m. So my point is like I don't need to bring my phone into my bedroom, because if there is an alert happening at 3 a.m. with my time, I don't need to respond it. It's probably, I actually realized that once or twice, there was an outage in a service, and then they basically fixed themselves. We get the alerts, and then when I woke up, I'm checking them. Okay, so it's basically they already fixed that. They already acknowledged the issue. They already fixed that. So that was my point. Of course, we have extensive logging, pinging, or on uptime checks, fault mechanisms, but my point was like that I still don't need to install PagerDuty into my phone and bring it into my bedroom if things go wrong at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. But imagine that we were not serverless. I have to do that. That's my point.
It's like a dream right now to most of the people not having the phone in the bedroom.
Yeah.
But I have one question regarding the security. So these all the things that in the server's environment, and you get some of the things out of the box. But one of the things as when I started implementing or using Firebase Cloud Functions was that the security and who can reach your functions, who can send the request. It's also a bit painful, I would say, or something that you need to be really careful. How do you approach that security, and how do you provide a secure software with serverless?
Okay, cool. Great question. So when I was working with real-time database, and I heard that you also work with them, work with it, and the first thing I remember was how messy it can become the security rules, and a check, a condition, and then another condition, and then another condition, and then not version of the another condition. It's a chain, and it's really fragile. you cannot change any of them with confidence, right?
Yeah.
So that was my nightmares. I still remember. And then Firestore comes with an indexes.json, rules.json file.
Yeah.
And at that file, I guess 95% of our rules are false. Read false, write false, update false, create false. Everything is false because outside world cannot access to my Firebase. It's like I treat it as a PostgreSQL DB, right? So you cannot access it. Although you can query it from a client, you can directly access to your Firestore. That's a really powerful advantage of using Firebase. But if I based on my if I base my infrastructure on that rules, I wouldn't be able to move it into Mongo or PostgreSQL, right? So of course, moving PostgreSQL will require a lot of other challenges, but let's say MongoDB, right? So I wouldn't be able to move it to MongoDB. And then, like, if you want to fetch Jandos data in the Superpeer conf/Jandos, it's a public data. Only thing that you can access, you can read, is that. Only the public version of that data. But we also deprecate that. We actually need to, the next version will go Cloud Run to fetch your data, not directly Firestore to fetch your data. So this is actually makes the security rules really, really easy. And then on the backend side, on Cloud Run, I did a reverse engineering because like it's not easy to 80 cloud functions into Cloud Run. I did a reverse engineering there. I wrote a middleware which will get a request from Cloud Run, convert it into the Cloud Function request, and pass it along. In that way, I literally didn't change the business logic or inside of my Cloud Functions. Just exported them as an endpoint, and then everything worked fine, and there was no regression. It was basically seamless switch between Cloud Functions to Cloud Run. That was a great experience, and I should be writing them down on a blog or talking about how I did what was the reverse engineering, because there's a really I will say clever way of approaching this this problem, because it took me a couple hours to maybe a couple days. I remember, how can I make this faster, or how can I make this 100% correct without breaking things? Because I cannot afford that, because there are $1,000 calls are happening on Superpeer. You cannot. There's no chance for me to break that endpoints or requests like going down or things like that. So we did this, and then on the backend side, every request comes with context parameter with an out object in it.
Okay.
So every request comes with an out object, and I took that out object in the Cloud Run environment and converted it into an out ID. Comes with an out ID. Converted that ID into an out object. Most of the endpoints looks at if you are not allowed to call this endpoint anonymously, just return 400.
Yeah.
Or, for example, as a Jandos, because I know who is making this request. I know it's Jandos. Jandos cannot access Fatih's data. It's basically returning you 400 for whatever 400. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now I understand. Yeah, it was pain for me in the beginning with Firebase. Yeah, the security rules. I mean, yeah, I'm thinking on another advantage of having the serverless environment is the scalability. So basically, most of the time you don't have any problem at all, because it just works, you know.
It just works, yeah.
I saw it on Twitter or so, like I think last week or sometimes before. Someone was saying that in the serverless environment, you just basically pay per minute what you use. In other way around, with having the servers, you pay for resource, and on the other side, you pay for the time most of the time. And it comes with advantages of the scalability. You don't need to care. But I want to bring this software development a bit in a narrow side, not narrow point of view. And I want to learn a bit more the engineering inside the Superpeer and maybe also in GitLab as well before in a startup, the code reviewing and testing processes. So we talked about development, deployment pipelines, that it was a pain and etc. But how do you in general do this engineering side? Do you have a code review process? Did you have in the beginning, and how do you approach testing? Let's start with code reviewing and then go for testing afterwards.
All right. So code reviews. I was even that I was the only developer. I was creating merge requests and merging them, merging my own merge requests.
So like no commit to master directly.
It is no commit most of the time. It's no commit to master because I was really reading my code the other day, not merging them onto the not pushing them onto the master, and that actually will really help me to know things are actually, or revisit the things along the way, because I was the only one working on this, creating this thing. And then so code reviews are and I was employed at GitLab, so it's a code review tool, and I was actually working on the code review part of GitLab. So I was building these code review tools, code review screens. I was the one who rewrote these merge buttons, and actually it's called merge request widget. So that widget, discussions, diff lines, comments, all on the diff lines. Basically, I'm the author of these parts. And then coming that perspective and coming that from philosophy, right? Code review is a must-have in our environment. And you know that I shared a internal recording to you recently about our new feature release. So I'm really excited to kick that elephant out of the door, because we are really bringing huge stuff into Superpeer. Let me do an ad placement here somewhere. We will basically the next release we will deploy paid subscriptions to the channels. That will be really great. So for that. Paid subscription is a huge feature. It's really huge. It was maybe 2 or 3 times bigger than I anticipated. So that's why we merged some stuff to a branch, a feature branch, and then deployed into our staging environment to give it into our the hands of our QA folks to be able to test it early QA and come up with the bugs and all these stuff. But tomorrow there is an event in my calendar which we will do, like all the lead engineers. It's like all day code review event, because we already reviewed them piece by piece, but it's such a big release. You cannot open that merge request in GitLab. It's like 250 changed files. It's like 10,000 lines of stuff, right?
It's like a PR that I opened yesterday.
It is. And my goal is to take a look, coming with all the stakeholders, and take a look at the big picture. We'll take a look, and then like when you deploy this big stuff, pieces individually are okay. But maybe while they were great, they were as expected, because QA engineers and we also tested. But as the technical side, right? These may not be for example, a folder shouldn't be there. A file shouldn't be in that folder. Take a look at the big picture and read really critical parts again to see that if things are really as expected. So that's something we will do. We do intensive code reviews and quite opposite of the GitLab, because at GitLab we were also doing the code reviews, but I find myself merging the codes I never would merge in GitLab. It is because GitLab's level is whole another story. You have to make sure that they are according to standards, according to merge request guidelines and things like that. But in here, in my environment, I'm like, okay, I will merge this because I need to move fast. So sometimes you have to sacrifice. It's trade. I wouldn't say sacrifice, but it's a trade-off. Sometimes I merge stuff that's not 100% there yet, but cannot afford that because I have to. We are still looking for product market fit, although the couple months is really great, going really great for us. But in the end, the truth is we are still looking for product market fit. So I have to ship features until I found that.
That's
so.
True.
Yeah, so that's actually the thing. But yeah, code reviews are really, really important. That's actually the reason why we ship stuff and not break production.
Yeah, I rarely, I think I don't remember seeing, maybe in one of the streams that was just a small problem that I had. But other than that, whatever I see in the platform, that I don't see any bugs or really like critical problems, I would say. And the thing that you mentioned about the code review is like you review your own PR the next day. I think this is one of the recommendations I give to people asking me about the code reviews. Review your own PR and basically do this next day, not after opening directly the PR. And this is a great strategy, even if you are working alone or with other people. And that's what I do. And we are as a like 15 people team at the moment in my company. And that's why I still do. I open the PR and review my own code the next day and then request review from others. But I'm curious about the testing part. So you have a QA, which is in startups. I must admit, I don't see that often. People like the specific dedicated QA people, what I'm telling about, because most of the time either product owner, maybe product manager is taking that part and shared with engineers most of the time. And what's your testing strategy? And starting from the software testing, like from the engineers unit testing, and going to the QA testing.
Okay. So let me tell you something really interesting. Right. I also didn't see that the QA teams, dedicated QA teams, dedicated QA folks are not common in startups at this early stage. But I did something very different, and this is basically one of the best decisions I did along the way. When I see that Superpeer will go to somewhere, and after we got the investment, I decided to quit GitLab and start Superpeer as a full-time employee and start to building this. At that time, Abdullah was with me, Ferhat was with me, Oğuz was with me, and then we were including me, we were 4 engineers. And I started to hire a couple folks, and then started to hire 2 QA engineers. And then they also hired 1 people. So the engineering team was like 5 people, QA team was like 3 people.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and then along the way, I teach them how to test the product, how to approach them, how to find bugs, what is my thinking when I approach to a testing of a merge request. What this particular change can break other stuff. Like I give the perspective to QA engineers, and really happy that they basically test Superpeer in a really great way. I think that is the reason why you don't see bugs, or in production we catch like you are really using Superpeer in a good way, as we expect, because you do streams, because you do one-on-one calls, you tweet your link, you do your promotion and things like that. So you are actually, as far as I'm concerned, you're a power user to us, and like you are really using this really long time, and I am happy that you don't spot bugs often in production. We basically catch them before we deploy. Fingers crossed, because we deploy a really the massive release. Fingers crossed it will also work great as expected. But that bringing the QA folks, dedicated QA folks to the game, at the very early stage was a really good move for us. And then when I was actually coming to the testing, unit testing part, before I start hiring engineers into Superpeer, there was a test coverage on the backend close to 45%. I was writing my own unit tests, and then just before deploying to production, we come up with we launched on January, but on September there was a 45% of coverage on the backend. And then at that time, at September 2019, we were ready to deploy it into the production. At that time, Devrim and I thought that this is not the thing that we want to show to others. And
okay.
It was a really, really different time, because this is my first entrepreneurial experience, right? And then my mind says, no, Devrim, we should really deploy this into production and see how people, see this.
Yeah, being user-centric kind of.
Give this to users and then do that. But the landing page was really, it was nightmare, right? And the dashboard side was also not there yet. And I know that this is basically very low to our quality. We didn't want to do that. And then that was a really hard call, but we did that. We said that, okay, we will revamp all the UI, and then we will do a redesign. And then for example, the September version of Superpeer, 2019 September version of Superpeer, doesn't have any notifications. We decided that notifications are crucial, because if I don't remember, if I don't say, Candos, hey Candos, you will have a call tomorrow, he can miss it, and it's not his fault. The software is not recommending. So we decided that, okay, this feature have to be in the launch version, MVP version, and then we need to do a redesign. And then at that time, with the redesign and some serious changes on the backend side, I was like, I'm still really sorry to disable all the tests.
Okay, I was not expecting. Okay.
I disabled all the tests, and still we don't have any unit tests coming to that point.
Okay.
So
do you have other kind of software testing besides QA?
Yeah, we should. Yeah, we do. We have a lot of end-to-end tests. Okay. So that's why, and we have really talented QA engineers. So that is actually kind of makes me really, but I'm still sorry that we don't have any, almost any, like 1%. The test coverage is 1% or something like that. But yeah, so the last week we were thinking that how we will basically bring unit testing into Superpeer. We were discussing that, but right now, no unit test, and it makes me really sad.
I think it's
right now.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. I mean, if you're comfortable enough to deploy the software without, not comfortable enough that you are blind, but more like you're comfortable to deploy, then it should be okay. And if you say end-to-end tests have the coverage of the many things. And now, I get so up until now, we talked about the all processes and the software development process. And I want to just talk a bit more about the hiring, because you hired many people, you are growing and you are still growing. And keeping the balance of onboarding in the software development projects is very hard, because whenever you hire a new person, there's a model called the Tuckman's model. It's basically, there's a process in the team or the stage in the team that the team is either forming in a forming stage or maybe storming, basically how the team, the purpose is clear, but the team relationships are a bit blurry, or norming phase, and then it goes to performing phase. So there are like 4 stages in Tuckman's model. And whenever you include someone, the team jumps from one stage to another without thinking about it. And hiring many people has an impact on it. And you are working remote first, and you are all remote, and you are using agile processes, and you have a big pipeline. And how do you keep up the balance? And also, there's a question the chat asks similar thing, that what are the agile methodologies that you follow within this process? Like, how do you keep up?
All right, Candace, I'm gonna tell you something, and I probably never speak out loud. I am planning to write a blog post called Seniorless.
Interesting.
Okay. So at the beginning of the Superpeer, when I hired a couple folks, I didn't even ask a single JavaScript question. Literally, most of the hires are basically didn't even ask a single JavaScript question, because you know me, I have a YouTube channel and I have a lot of videos in YouTube. So I teach folks. I can teach you. If I can talk to you, if I can talk to you like an hour or so, if there is a chemistry between us, if there is a culture, if you are a cultural fit to me and my company, I can teach you. I really don't need to don't need to hire, because it's really hard to find senior folks. That's true. Those senior folks are coming with their truths, their correct and wrongs. Yeah, but I build a team without senior folks, and I teach them, and I give them my culture. Now, well, they say, Fatih, it's your culture. No, I'm saying it's Superpeer's culture. That's the thing I learned from GitLab. It's not Sid, who is the CEO of GitLab. It's not Sid. It's GitLab. The same is here. It's not me. It's Superpeer. It's the culture of Superpeer. So we created that culture, right? And then we come to 8 people really quickly, without like mid-level to junior folks. And at the beginning, it was really going good, because the feature development was not that intense, right? And then the expectations, especially we got the second investment, $8 million. The expectation and the perspective of the company or the engineering team or like every team, the game changed, right? So when we fast forward 6 months, right? I was like, oh shit, I shouldn't be doing this, because it's a huge time consuming. But I know that that part I wouldn't, I'd never speak out loud. But I knew that it will pay off, and it did. I'm really happy to see that, like a lot of not every junior folks that started in Superpeer are now basically like 5x of them compared to 6 months ago. And they know the code base, they know the culture, they know how I write code. For example, let's say remove that ESLint. Think that ESLint or any linters does not exist in the universe. They will write code close to my approach, because that's how I teach them. That actually was really hard. I was like, I shouldn't add this much mid-level folks to Superpeer. I should have at least 1 or 2 senior folks. And I'm like, okay, but it will pay off. Now the game changed, and then we actually started that senior folks into Superpeer, and then they are basically, because I need help. Cannot do that on my own.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part that I was more curious, that because you need to delegate some tasks, so you can focus on the bigger, or not bigger, but other things. And I don't know, I mean, this is not the many software, especially startups, take, because whenever I see a startup, they are interested in the most senior people, and the term that having a 10x engineer, which I really hate that term. But that's the general startup way, I would say. That's very interesting to hear, and I'm thinking now being inclusive, because when you hire junior people and you give them a chance, you educate them. Basically, you are bringing someone into next level, and this is not a big chance for anyone that much actually. And most of the time in startups, fast hirings and acting fast actually leaves this diversity out in general. Having junior people in the team is very great for the diversity, but I see that also you have a very good diverse team, both in junior, senior, and also in the gender level. How did you keep that? Because it is, as we said in the beginning, acting fast, hiring fast. Maybe you hire juniors, you educate them, but it's still it's a problem in many companies. And as far as I see, you have a great balance. How did you do that actually?
Yeah, one time in Superpeer, a couple months, 4 to 6 months ago, our female ratio is like 67% on behalf of on advantage of females. It was like, but in the entire organization. And then we closed the department, so that's basically moved to like 45% of entire organization female to male ratio, 45% female right now, 55% male right now. So in engineering team, I calculated that right now it's 38%, close to 40% female ratio. And it was basically 50-50 a couple months ago because we hired a new couple more folks. So it's basically it's like almost in a great balance. I'm not sure what is the ratio in the industry right now, but 40% is
it's very low, I would say. Whatever I check, I remember from Stack Overflow survey results and some other survey results,
5%?
I think like 90% are male.
Yeah.
So it is
5 to 10%, right? Maybe one or two engineers. Right now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or I'm not sure how many ladies we have. So that is actually, for example, I found Ezgi, who is our payment team lead, on the 6th page of LinkedIn. I'm like, I didn't know her. She didn't. She know me. She knew me at that time, and I didn't know her. And then I basically, like, we were speaking on the phone speaking on the phone, and like 35 minutes later, I'm like, Ezgi, I'm gonna make you an offer. Let's come and work together. And then, like, really didn't ask any single JavaScript question, but she is the team lead of our payment team right now. She has her own engineers working for them, working together and things like that. So that helped. And then one thing I did, Arman Amcalar, my dear friend, and he has an establishment called Lonca.
Yeah, I know.
Lonca means in Turkish, it's a craftsman unit in very old Turkish culture. It's like a craftsmanship school, right? But it's very early in Turkish time. So Armand recommended me Merve, Yeşim, and then I found Ezgi, and then found Nesli Shah. All these women are coming from that environment, or coming. We came across in that way. So
it's interesting to hear, because finding one person, doesn't matter who is it, in the 6th page of LinkedIn is a good story, I must admit. So now I'm thinking about also the team structuring and also motivating people in the team. How do you keep up the motivation? Because it is an important part. And again, in the startups, you act fast and maybe break things, and maybe in Superpeer way, not break things, but develop the high quality. Motivating people is most of the time hard because of many different reasons. And startups are more stressful most of the time because you are trying to catch a market product fit, and you have a different software development processes. So how do you keep up the motivation?
Yeah, great question. So one thing that also Ezgi just added heart onto the chat. Thanks, Ezgi. Thanks for being with us. And also I read that lonja is called guilt in English. That's correct. That's a thank you for adding that. Motivation in the startup environment is something different. And also motivation in a remote only team is whole another thing, right? The good thing that I am working remotely the last 8 years, so I know how to work remotely. It's not because of me working from my home or working remotely because of the pandemic, or I do this. So we do coffee chats like twice a month. And then we do fireside chats. We have a repository called Tech Talks, but it doesn't have to be tech. So people are going and creating an issue there, and then the others are upvoting that issue, and then we pick the most upvoted issue and talk about that in a session. It's like a fireside chat. It's not me talking or telling you or giving you lecture about that that specific thing. It's not. So it's basically we were doing this, and then on the that is actually the thing that we do on social side, but on the engineering level, there is a great motivation because of I am actually Superpeer is actually taking them into their next levels. So that is actually a very motivation point. I'm thinking that 10 years ago, I would love to work in Superpeer.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean,
that's a nice motivation point, right?
Yeah, the having like for engineers, motivating them with the software and the good product is generally easier. I must admit, I've seen often that the people in the engineering side, they are looking for a good ideas, high quality products, and etc. On the other side, that's harder as far as I see in the industry. Like motivating customer support employees, for example, is another story. And sometimes they just do it for money, not even for any kind of motivation. And that part is harder, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. But right. I answered your question mostly on the engineering side, and also on the perk side, we gave them what they need to create their working environment from remotely. Like everything I have on my desk, even the AirPods, they can expense. So and then the other thing is the last year, I am 100% sure every Superpeer employee get at least 2 bonuses. So we do this also. We gave them because we are a remote only company, but we gave them a private health insurance, and then we have 2 English teachers, full-time English teachers in Superpeer.
Full-time. Wow.
Yeah, two full-time English teachers, and they do weekly English speaking clubs or watch movie together kind of clubs.
Interesting. So, I will start my German lessons soon, actually, even though I'm in German-speaking country for the last 5 years. That's very interesting. Yeah, motivating people with those perks is, it's great, and it's great to hear from a startup because that is often a neglected point, I must admit, because startups generally doesn't have a lot of money, and even though they try to keep the profits high and cut all expenses, and I think that's a great way. One thing I So we are coming to an end, and I want to ask quickly two more things. First one is, how do you cope with the lack of attention and the over-optimism? The lack of attention is basically what I can say, focusing on small functionalities that customers don't need that much. But the team thinks that they are really cool, amazing features, but no one asks for it from the customer side. And over-optimism means the not planning everything properly and hoping that everything will be fine. So basically, if you fail to prepare to fail.
Yeah.
So how do you cope with both at the same time?
There is actually a balance between two of them, right?
Yeah.
And it is really hard for startups when they don't have product market fit. Like, you have to build things to be able to find that product market fit, but you still developing stuff. It will take time, and like, you can only try to find that product market fit when you build this thing, which will take, let's say, 2 months. Okay, so 2 months delayed. So first we need this thing, and then we will go after the product market fit. Of course, you can do things in parallel, but let's say that the product needs that. For example, for us, it's paid memberships. So, and how do we know that? Well, it can sound like over-optimism, but you bet on this. You have to bet. There is no other way, I guess. And then my co-founder, Devrim, is a really great person, can go and listen others and come up with that product idea. He's a very product-oriented CEO, so he comes with these product ideas and works with designers, works with product folks to write that, and he works 4 hours with designers. I'm like, okay, you shouldn't be doing this, but because a CEO shouldn't really do that, because we have to work on the other areas, but that's the reality. So he works like me, like 16 hours a day. So for 4 hours goes to there, right? So yeah, like you for example, we have something called brand networks, right? If you go to producthunt.com, on the top header in Product Hunt, there will be a link called mentors. When you click that, Product Hunt will show you a list of folks, and clicking book a call will take you to Superpeer. So that is actually a feedback. We never thought something like this. That is actually someone, Eliza from the field, told us that, hey, you can actually make this. That will make sense. We were like, okay, that's a really great feature. So we should be actually, and it's our flagship feature right now. So we were fortunate enough to hear that. For example, streams. These streams were basically an idea we heard from couple folks, and also we realized that one-to-one video calls are really hard to scale, because you, right, Candos, you want to talk to hundreds of people at the same time.
Yes.
Why you should do one video calls, right? There is still a business value. There's still a value in there. One-to-one video calls. That's a close attention, of course. But we saw that people is actually looking for a way to do it one-to-end. How can you do that? You can add live streams, and we are not seeing these live streams as Twitch. We are not, or StreamYard, StreamYard. So we will not give you a stream studio. This is basically what you have, and for a really long time, this will be as is, because this is basically not that platform.
Yeah,
it is this conversation can be another episode.
Yes, of course. What I have in Superpeer as a stream platform is that I'm very happy. I'm not saying that because you are here, but I tried other platforms for streaming, Twitch, YouTube, StreamYard, I don't know, many others. And even the OBS and Streamlabs and etc. It was always hard to start at some point. And having one-on-one connection with streams are really great for me. I have one last question. What would you do differently if you had a second chance to start a new startup?
All right, cool. Good question. Immediately bring something into my mind. When I founded Superpeer, and a couple months later, I was talking to another founder friend of mine, and then he told me that I will start my next company with 6 co-founders. I'm like, what? It's Devrim and I, and we still conflict. And how could you do that? And it's at that time, it's basically that statement was too broad for my experience at that time. Right now, I feel like, yeah, give me 6 co-founders.
Okay, I never expected that one, to be honest.
Yeah, give me 6 co-founders, Jandos. It's because of that. Right now, I am the one I should be working on 20 engineers to ship that thing. I was saying shit. Ship that thing. And then also, after a code review session, I'm dragged into a marketing meeting. And then I need to go and find the next growth person, right? Yeah. And I find myself doing growth interviews. I'm like, hey, I never did this all my life. I'm an engineer. I interviewed maybe 200, 300 people in my career, and I hired them. But marketing, no, I never did that. Or growth, I never did that. Or I find myself interviewing chief operating officers. I'm like, oh, okay, that's different. So find me another co-founder who will do this, right? Find me another co-founder who will work on and exceed that marketing area, like I do or like Devin does in CEO perspective, right? Yeah. Or product perspective. So find me another co-founder will work on this marketing area or growth area, or create a team on the marketing side, growth side, sales side, customer success side. So 6 co-founders.
Okay, yeah, it's I think I cannot really relate, but I can totally understand. And I have a hint for you. If you are struggling for marketing, last week we did a good stream about marketing in startups, and you can go and watch there. And also for the people who are listening this, superpeer.com/Jandost, you can go there and watch this. So I think it might help you in that regard, just for the alt text here. Okay, I think our time is ending, and I would like to ask, do you have anything else to add?
No, that was a really great conversation, an hour-long conversation, and I really enjoyed this. And yeah, thank you for having me here on my own platform.
Thanks for being here. And how people can reach out to you?
Well, it's Fatih Acet in every other platform. It's like pretty much everywhere, including.
Okay. Thank you, Fatih, for being here, and I really enjoyed having this talk with you. I'm looking forward to the next talks we are going to do together. Hopefully,
let's do another one sometime.
Yeah. Next week we are having another talk, and it will be about It will be about iOS apps at scale or mobile apps at scale. The link will be published soon. Don't forget to subscribe to that one too. And thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for listening us, and see you until next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you everyone.